right. Welcome, Andy Patterson Patrick Gale, President, Vice President of the Sioux Falls Area Community Foundation. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Success Mindset.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So I'm excited to have this conversation. Obviously, very involved in the community. You guys do so much in our community as well as our involvement in the community. As you think about this word success, and how long have you been in Sioux Falls?
Since 1995. I came
95.
1980.
1980, so almost our whole lives.
Yeah.
As you think about, seeing a lot has happening in our community. What are some things that got you excited about with the direction that Sioux Falls is headed right now within our community?
Okay, I'll go first. I think the one thing about Sioux Falls that always makes me excited is collaboration. Mm-hmm. I think, people often will say, what do we have going on here? They don't have other places. I think we work together. It doesn't mean we always have the answer right away, but people are pretty quick to join things, show up, be in the room, and that's half of it at least. And so I think that, to me, is a big deal of what we have going on, and it's kind of the fuel for a lot of other things that are going well.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people out there that just have a lot of pride in this community and want to make it a cool place, and we're tired of people growing up here and graduating and wanting to leave, and we want to make this a place that people want to stay and make this their home.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that led to you staying so long and seeing here that gets us excited about not only where we've been but where we're going? What are some of those things that you look for in the community that keeps you involved?
Yeah, I mean, I'm raising my family here. I mean, growing up here, looking around at the schools, it's a safe place to raise a family. A lot of friendships, a lot of just for me, it's home. I mean, like I say, this is where I grew up, and this is where I feel comfortable. And but yeah, you came here a little later. What did you like about it?
Yeah, I came here for college, and then after college, you slide into your first entry level job, and before you know it, a lot of years have passed, and you look back and. There's no reason to leave. I think what I love about Sioux Falls is there's things to do. It's a fun town, but there's still opportunity. I like going out and running at people I know, and being able to pick up the phone and talk to just about anybody. And I think that those are the cool things. Is we're still at that kind of really fun, for me at least, that cross section of there's things happening here, but it's not so large that it becomes kind of unknowable to know other people in the community.
Yeah, it's been cool for us, obviously, that I really only got involved in community work, if you would, probably 3 years ago, because, again, it was corporate ladder, climbing those things out, but you get behind it and you realize how much is truly built off of relationships, and you use that word collaboration. This is, again, Sioux Falls is a special place because it does take a collaboration of businesses, nonprofits, city government, all these different things working together for this common good. And it's unfortunate. You can look across our country, see a lot of folks very divisive in a lot of things. We have our own issues in that space, but think about collaboration, that relationship side of it. What has relationships meant to you guys along your journey of success, just as individuals, right? Because it's not, there's no destination. It's the people you do it with that really. If that's not a part of the equation, that's not real success, in my opinion. Maybe talk about the relationships, just personally, that have had a meaningful impact in your life along this thing that you call life.
I would say for me, I look back, starting a career, just having a boss at one point in my career that invested a lot in me, and I got a lot of time, got a lot of mentorship, and I think it probably instilled some belief in myself that I didn't have. That I was like, hey, I belong in this room. I belong in this kind of work, and that kind of set it up real well. That as you move into things that are wholly different than when you started, you get confidence that I can figure it out. Yeah. And so I think, to me, that's where relationship matters. Now I'm at a spot where you don't have some of those same struggles, but you realize so often the things you need to accomplish, you need other people to help understand, to help get things done. And man, is it easier when you already have a relationship, that you're not building that when you're starting work, that you've got some shared experiences. Then you get about the work of that particular project. And I just think it means everything.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, there's been so many people in my life that have, taken a chance on me and opened some doors, and they were genuine with me, and being able to now get to my point in my life to hopefully reciprocate that and open doors for other people, and just be real. It's just I've been fortunate to have a lot of people in my life at the right moments that have just poured into me like you have.
For sure. I think, obviously mentorship's a big word. A lot of talk about it as of late. We got the Sioux 52 going on. You got all kinds of mentorship programs because we understand the power of it, right? I think, the mayor uses the word, the phrasing, send the elevator back down. What are some of those characteristic traits that you think this next generation should either be working to develop or even on the lookout for? Because I think a lot of folks that aren't maybe stepping into that mentorship role, if you haven't done it before, it can be a little intimidating, but it's just sharing your life experiences. But what are some of those characteristic traits that, have a part to play in what folks could sink their teeth in to develop to make themselves more valuable to their community, to their personal lives, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same thing I tell, my kids: be coachable. Your attitude is everything when you show up. And then I would say, whatever job or task you have, do it to the best of your ability, and don't be too big for it or think you're better than it. I mean, whatever it is you're doing, do it well. Work at it hard. Have a good attitude every day, and it'll open up doors for you eventually. People will notice that, and things will happen for you.
Yeah, I like that one. How about you?
I think if you're looking at being mentored, and you're fortunate enough to have someone that you would consider a mentor, I think to seriously look at, what, not where that person's at now, but what are the steps that got them there. And I think sometimes it's easy to see someone in a role that you aspire to, or a spot in life that you wish you were at, and to kind of want to jump to it. And then you forget, really, there are a lot of lessons they had to learn the hard way. There was dues they paid. They showed up early, stayed late. And not to take that for granted, because you're encountering them at a different stage. And I think sometimes that's kind of hard, because you start identifying and want to model what they're doing now. And they put in some probably different work at a different stage. And so that would be one piece for, I think, the mentee. I'd say on the other side of it is the mentor. All that being said, their path might not look like what yours was. And so how do you not prescribe that? And so I think if both can come at it that way, then you've got a little bit more. I just think you'll end up at a better spot in that relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to what you said, coachable, right? You have to be willing to be coached up, down, across, just always be curious and be ready to learn. And I think a lot of our society, you see, we live in this instant gratification world where kids want it tomorrow. They want to be a millionaire by 25. Only to get there. Actually, a couple episodes ago, I was talking with the mayor about success, and he strove to build a successful company, and then you hit it and you got it. And what most people find, it's not about the money, right? They know at the end of their life is, I wish I made more money. It has to do with impact and the journey itself. Obviously, with what you guys do with the Community Foundation, you have a lot of contact with some very successful people. What are some of the because for most people, they don't have access to wealthy people, if you would, or people who are really trying to give up. What are maybe some things that societally misnomers about these individuals that might surprise folks about, here's the real deal, because these are the ones that are funding major things that truly have a heart to give. Maybe unpack that a little bit about what are some surprising things that the average individual wants to say, this person with money is XYZ, but you get to see a whole different side of these individuals' hearts, those type of things. What are maybe one or two things that most folks might not know?
I'm not sure where to start on that. I think one of the things is a lot of the donors are entrepreneurs, and they started in really not glamorous spots. I'm thinking of one where they had a kid in the baby carrier, down by the desk while the husband and wife worked late at night. Those are the things that there's usually an origin story, especially for the entrepreneurs, that's like that, and that there's a lot of hard things. And then I think the other piece about it is, they're normal people. They might obsess over their lawn or whatever it is that a lot of others do as well. And so I think just that the humanness of it, sometimes we set aside because, we can't imagine having that much wealth. And so those would be a couple things that stand out.
Yeah, I like that. I think, when you have, you look at the 5%ers, if you would, right? The society sees that. I think one of the misnomers, in my opinion, and what I've come across is we still have 95% in common, right? Again, they're ordinary people. They, they want to raise, we have way more in common. I don't care where you come from, your background, you want good community, you want opportunities, all those different things, but it comes back to wanting to make a difference and being a good person. I think a lot of folks, some people in my sphere, again, there's these stigmas of money, but at the same token, like, well, take the money away. Money does a lot of good. Now, again, obviously it can make you, give you a lot of opportunities to do bad things with it, if you would, but again, it's more about the person. As you guys think about, passing on things to your kids, you're both fathers as well. What are some of those life lessons that you want to pass along to set your kids on a trajectory of success, however you define that? What are some things that you want to pass along as maybe some advice or directionally how you want your kids to live their life in a way that's successful?
Yeah, I mean, I got a senior in high school right now we're heading off to college here next year, so it's a lot. I've been thinking about that question a lot, and wanting her to stay close to home, and kind of realizing now that you got to let her go and spread her wings. And I think I just want her to believe in herself and to take those risks and to go for the things that she wants, because life does go by, and you might blink and you missed a shot. So I just want her to believe that she can do the things that she wants to do. And remember where you come from. I have my address, my house that I grew up in here in Sioux Falls, just a modest house. I have my address in my phone, and every once in a while I look at that just to stay grounded, remember where I came from. And so, I want her to remember where she comes from, but I want her to believe in herself and take those risks.
Yeah.
I want my kids to be generous, and not just in the money sense, but just in how they give of themselves. And wherever you're at, man, be valuable. And so if you're the cleanup crew at the concession stand after the football game, be the best. Like, provide value, and don't be too good, for any of those situations that, if you're at an event, don't expect someone else picks up the chairs. Why not you?
Yeah.
And, and start with that mindset of, hey, at this moment in time, how do I share generosity and provide value to the people in the room? And sometimes it will be, you're not doing the chairs because you've got some other abilities they need, but you're also not too good for that, or whatever it might be. And it's some of my kids that takes hold better than others. There's one in particular really struggles with all that. So, you kind of emphasize different things, but there'll be a stage where your job isn't glamorous. Be the best, provide value there. And I think that the opportunities explode if you do that.
Yeah. I heard, I love the advice out there, or saw it somewhere out there, Shaq, if you heard his comments recently, with his kids were giving him crap or something like that, wanting more money. And he said, we're not rich. I'm rich.
Love it.
And he's obviously paid for them to go to college, but like, bring me a business plan, bring me those things. And I love it. You have someone who's worth probably $500 million, whatever he is. And it's that, those life lessons, which as we all work hard to provide better for our kids, but how do you help them stay grounded? Is you want them to understand what you went through, but yet you worked hard so they didn't have to necessarily. So I think a lot about that, because again, as we look at setting our city up for success, setting this next generation up for success, you see a lot of individuals who don't have access to see some of those things. And so trying to figure out, how do we lay a framework and show a path, because when you talked about, the blueprint of it, of folks that are successful. And it's amazing in this information age, you can Google anything, books are available, you can find, it's not a secret. It shouldn't be a secret, but most people, as you said earlier, they want that thing now without putting the work in. Most time I always joke with folks, there's a couple studies out there. What if I could show you a way that you could be a top 3 to 5% in any industry? What would you be willing to pay for that? Well, it's a guarantee. I'll pay whatever I need to. And then how much time would you commit? As much time as I need to commit. And you tell them it's goal setting, and that's studies after studies show the power of goal setting. But then, like, oh, it's like it doesn't take away the fact that it's true, but people want it to be easy. They want it microwaved, those type of things. And I think about, again, obviously with our community and the work that you guys do, involved in so many nonprofits and different areas that you give. I believe the true success of any community is only really going to be backed by the level of their nonprofits, because nonprofits serve so many needs and those type of things. As you guys see, the space of our nonprofit world, what are some maybe highlights that you think really helps make our community successful? Not that you have to call anyone by name, but just what the spirit of our nonprofit community. Why is that so important in terms of thinking about the success of a community?
Well, I get to see it a lot. These are the people that are caring for our elderly, our disabled, our children, and they're not high-paying jobs, and they do it because they know it's important, and it's hard to define what it is that makes some of these folks get up every day and do some of this work that's not very glamorous and not very high paid, but it is what makes us a strong community. And I can't praise those workers enough for the job that they do. I mean, we get to see it a lot.
Yeah, there's some hard jobs out there getting done by nonprofits and doing important work. I think one of the things nonprofits can do is be a bit of a bridge. So you have a good chunk of our community that's doing real well, and continuing on driving their car to work, and probably from a neighborhood of people just like them to a job with a lot of people similar to them. And there's a lot of people in our community that become invisible to us, and people that have a whole different situation that they're in. And I think that some of the nonprofits that have had the most success, and that, that's a tough word to define, but maybe sure, attracting the resources they need, they've done a good job of really being that bridge between the ones that have the resources and those in need. And how do you almost carry the message, of the family that's struggling with childcare, or how do you carry the message of kids that are in the foster care system? Mm-hmm. And I think both sides need it. We're not as good if we all think everything is easy. Yeah. And so those that maybe are on the have side, boy, they need to be reminded of that. And so hopefully the nonprofits are the way for those with the resources to participate in the work. Pat and I aren't social workers. Man, that's a hard job. Yes. But we've got a small way of participating in that work by helping to find resources for it. And others of us were given, so I think that's really glue of your community, kind of linking together people from very different spots.
Yeah, there's no one solve to it. I think, in my mind, our way forward of a stronger community, a better community, is really when everyone, we call it, when we do coaching and stuff like that, is your 111. Like, what's your 111 on a football team? Like, what's my role? Yeah. So again, there's obviously folks directly in nonprofits. Maybe you can give a few dollars. Maybe you can give of your time. But it has to really be a universal, mantra of our community members. I don't care where you at. What are you? Even if you're receiving some benefits, what can you then turn around and give? Yeah. So if I were to give you a magic wand, straight out of Cinderella's story, a little bippity boppity boop, what is one or two areas that you would really wave this wand at? And obviously we're a great community in a lot of ways, continue to make a lot of great places to live, all the good stuff out of it. But we also see some opportunities. What are one or two areas that you would, if I could just help really close the gap in our community to help us make us even stronger? Because I don't think we're by any stretch failing. I think we're doing good, but we have room for improvement. Where do you see gaps? Where do you see a couple opportunities we could step into to be a better version of ourselves?
Yeah.
I mean, we could probably go back and forth for a while here if you want, but yeah. I think one right off the top, if we could provide better opportunities for families with younger kids. So I'm thinking childcare and after school. Mm-hmm. We have, I think the stats are pretty well known, but I think South Dakota, the highest rate of every parent in the home is in the workforce.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So whether that's two parents both working or there's one parent in the home and they're working, It's like 75%, and I think the national average is in the 60s.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of stress, either finding a place and affording a place for that kid to be safe and, encouraged while you're at work, or that kid's more at risk. And so how do we close that for, whether it's, again, daycare or it's after school for a middle schooler? I think that's a huge, huge opportunity for us to support families, but also pour into kids. And I think that's one of those things that pays off down the road.
Yeah, that statistic is new to me. Shocking, yet because what happens in the absence of having that, right? Who's then raising your kids? It's either their influences or whatever they see on social media, and we're not setting that next generation up for success if they lose the semblance of home life.
Yeah, if you're on your own, it started in 5th grade, man, there's a lot of opportunities to goof up, and so, how as a community do we help with, if that's the dynamic we have here, how do we create something that takes advantage of that?
Yeah, I think all of us can look in the mirror and say, like, holy crap, if 5th grade, if that was me, I'm probably not sitting here.
And that could kind of lead into, kind of one area that I would like to see us try to do better would be in the area of mental health and addiction. We see a lot of people battling those demons, and those addictions are real, and there's a lot of trauma that comes from a lot of different places, and it's a real struggle for people, and it has a big impact on families, and it's not just Sioux Falls, it's all over, but we gotta take care of it here at home.
Yeah, that's we weren't great going into COVID. I think we're all very clear that we're worse on the other side, and we don't have a lot of avenues and platforms to really talk about it. Actually, we just had someone from our LOT community, from our community, reach out and said, hey, like, is there any plans to talk about this within our communities? Like, I know I suffer from this from time to time. And then actually another gal that I haven't heard from a while was just texting back and forth. She was like, I was going through depression, and like, reach out, but I get it. Like when you're in it and you need it the most, that's when people don't do that. So there's just so much opportunity in that.
That's hard to navigate. I mean, it's tough to know what to do, even if you're at the point where you're ready.
Yeah.
And getting ready is hard.
Yeah.
So that's a tough issue.
Yeah.
But I think probably core, the root issue of a lot of other things that we struggle with here too.
Yeah. Well, let's just go ahead and solve these 2 things and we're good.
Yeah. We're done.
Yeah. You want more?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm curious to hear you guys' perspective, because obviously, again, you're in the boat of, working individuals, family, the balance of it. We hear a lot of work-life balance. We try to use the word work-life integration because it all really integrates together. But an important part of that, we just flew back just last night from Phoenix, right? And you hear it every time you're on an airplane. Something happens, put your mask on first. And I think a lot of it has to do with mental health, but a lot of folks have those gaps. They don't have the energy left over at the end of the day, primarily driven by workplace culture and various things like that. Just sucks the life out of them, so they don't have time to give to their families and communities, etc. But we're not great at putting ourselves first. I give myself to my job, to my relationships, to my kids, and if I have time, I may reinvest in myself. When, we've been challenging, like, okay, if you're really selfless and you really care about other individuals, you should be selfish in a way of making sure you get yourself to 100% as often as possible, because me at 100%, I'm a better community member, I'm a better husband, I'm a better father, all those different things. But most people are trying to give of themselves from that occupancy of 60 to 70%, which you're doing everyone you engage in a disservice. So as you guys think about investing yourselves, what are some of the things that you do to fuel up your tank to make sure that you have enough to give at your job, give in the community, give at home? Obviously, none of us are perfect at it, but what are some of the things that you do to make sure that you have your tank filled up to be able to pour into others?
Yeah, I mean, faith, I think, is a big part of, I think, both of our lives. So getting up early in the morning and spending some time, just kind of having some reflection time is a way for me to start my day. Trying to get in a little exercise is also a way to get that tank up to 100% before I head out the door. How about you?
Yeah, I'm sometimes not very good at it, to be real honest. So I think recently it's been trying to get routines built in, because without that intention, it doesn't happen. And so that's starting to be getting up early for exercise, but it's also devotion and prayer time every day. I think it's also just giving yourself a chance to, reflect on the bad days, and learn. I wasn't great this morning as we were getting ready to take the kids to school. And it was good to kind of on the way to school evaluate that and say, yeah, you got to be more intentional about how you're showing up from 6:30 to 7:30 or whatever, and how do you have those moments to really give yourself a critique and say, all right, like I'm not gonna like sleepwalk into tomorrow morning. That hour has to be better. And so just taking that time to say, all right, this is what I'm doing tomorrow, and coming at it differently. And I think, that's one example, but somehow getting ready with my family is always brings out the worst in me. But
I got 3 girls and a wife, man.
Yeah, So, but I just think that kind of reflection to say, all right, I don't want to be about that. Yeah, let's do this different.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I heard, why one of our core sayings at Think 3D is nothing of significance happens without intention. And everyone would want to say, I want my life to be significant. I want my impact to be significant. Well, the core thing is intention, right? And I was listening to a audio by Earl Nightingale, and he used this reference of, an airplane pilot has a checklist before he takes off and when he's landing. And because it's imperative, if I don't follow this checklist, things can go wrong literally and die, right? But I think obviously what life or death of our lives, like, do you have a checklist in the morning and do you have a checklist in the evening to make sure that you have a successful takeoff to your day? Again, you know what it looks like, but most people kind of wake up and get ready for work and then roll into work. And if you don't set out an intention to have a great day, like, have you ever stumbled upon a phenomenal day?
Not usually.
That doesn't happen by accident, right? And so it's like it's determining, if you want to have a phenomenal life, that only comes by way of having phenomenal days. And core breaking that back. But one of the things we talk about, last question I have is it's been amazing talking about success is my favorite topics, just because it's available to everybody, especially in this great country, especially in this great city. It truly is available to everybody. Yet I have been blown away at probably about less than 10% of people that we engage with or ask, and it's been probably thousands of people at this point now, year to date. But I asked the question, how many of you have a personal and custom definition of what success means to you? And less than 10% of people do. And so just challenging folks to really wrestle with that while you still have time. And so most of us have heard that rocking chair test, analogy of imagine you're 80 years old, sitting in a rocking chair. What would it take for you to look back to your current age now with satisfaction to say, life well lived? What are a few of the key things that you'll have to accomplish in your life to look back with satisfaction versus a lot of people find themselves in regret when now I'm 80, I don't have the time or energy, so on and so forth. What are a few of those things that would it take for you to look back, you feel, on your life with satisfaction? A little deep question before we land the plane here.
That's tough. I'm probably part of your statistic.
I'm at 10%.
That I think I'm gonna kind of go full circle here, but I think it's relationships.
Yeah.
I want the people that interacted with me to know that I cared and that I gave them my best. And I think that would be satisfying to me, that if, I don't need to be famous, but if the people that were involved knew, boy, Andy Patterson, he really was there for me when I needed it. That matters. And that if that could be, if I feel like I could answer that for hopefully my wife, my kids first and foremost, but the people that worked with me over the years, my parents, did I show up when I genuinely care? Yeah. That would be it for me.
Yeah,
I'm in total agreement. Did I make my family proud? Did I make my parents proud? Was I authentic? Was I genuine? Was I present for the people in my life? I'm right on that same wavelength.
I like it. I heard this quote from somewhere, but it basically was a thought. I want to be famous in my home, and because famous is well known, and again, just it matters with them. Like, and that's a question I ask myself again in the mix of busyness of my days. I have a couple questions I try to ask myself most days. If I was the best father in the world, how would I walk in this house? If I was the best husband in the world, how would I walk into this home? And I was watching an interview with Kobe Bryant, and he talked about it. It was such a great perspective for me around this topic. But he said, he worked very hard at being one of the best basketball players of all time. And a lot of days you get home and you're tired, and girls want to play, whatever. And I'm tired. And he's like, but if there was a game the next day, I'd get up and get myself ready for the game. Mm-hmm. So if I can do it for the game, do it for home. And how many of us, again, you gave it all day long, and then the people that are most important in your life get the least of you. If you can do it for there, do it for that. And so that's a big one.
I can't be what Kobe said.
Well, I mean, I won't say he's a GOAT, but great. He's one of the greatest, my favorite players.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, thank you, gentlemen, for sharing perspective and joining us on this episode of Success Mindset.
Yeah. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
All right.